Hello. Let me move. So let's wait until other people come in. See, we have four. Simon, you here? Hello, Eddie. How you doing? Now, Simon was here. He was up on my panel before I had issues. Hello, Tyrannical. Great, that's good. Some people don't usually get my notifications, even though they have it all dinged. Okay. Let me see if we get any more people come in. And so I'll go and start now. Hi, Summer. Okay. We no. Uh, we're, I have my notes written down somewhere. Dang it. With all the technical issues, I misplaced my notes. Ah. If Thank you, Claire. What we have when we look at Bigfoot or Sasquatch, there's different types and names of Sasquatch and all that. As we Let me see. Dang it. Okay. What I was looking at for the that's the number of sightings of Bigfoot in the United States. What we have, the most is where we usually, so there's 22 different types of sightings in Alaska. None, the only state that have none is Hawaii. And you could tell where a lot of the sightings take place: Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, Missouri, Illinois, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, West Michigan, Wisconsin, Colorado, California, Oregon, and Washington. Those three have the triple digit numbers. Yeah. Yeah, the sightings are all over the world too, with lots of Bigfoots. The gray man, or the fair lieth more, which is, if I remember right, in Scotland. You have the Yeti, the Iran in China, the Mappitsinkari, I can't pronounce it, Mink, or Menk, Menk, Sasquatch, the Australian Yowie, Orang Pundak, a Garu, can't pronounce that well, Skunk Ape, Ames, the Ohio Grassman, Orali, Kasutak, Mongolian Mast, which is in Arizona. The Williams or Rockin' Sam, Minnesota Iceman, Monstrous Wildman, Folk Monster, Cajun Sasquatch, AS, ASA Monster or Asa Monster, Barden Bugar, Golos, Sismikra, and so many other names I won't pronounce. They're mostly foreign names and all that. They're usually Terry. uh, the they were also given many names that describes the hairy man, the wild man, bugbears, the Basuran in southern Spain, caveman, you name it, straw bear, moss people. It depends where they're at. Well, we lost some people. Um, they're sometimes misidentified as bears, escape apes, humans, and all that. They're they're throughout history we find names of these. from all over. Thank you, Summer. You have the Sumerian, the Greek, the Russians, the Germans, Libya, Libya, Norway, even stories and tales like Gilgamesh and in the Bible, Napa's the I can't pronounce it. It's in the book of Daniel in the Bible. The Babylonian leader was hairy and all that. The story of Wild Man, descriptions of Wild Man, has been around probably for like 3,000 years at least. Then you have the original tale of King Arthur. Have King Arthur meeting the wild man guy glove or something like that. It was described as a yeah. The tale of these wild men, even though they're different, they have different descriptions, like the what we see today, like the Yeti is all white, while the North American Sasquatch are usually brown, some are black fur or hair. And then you usually get something like some freak shows that have very hairy humans too. But we know there's a difference between those people and Sasquatch. We term wild man and hairy man throughout these years is different because usually the term hairy man is usually be like the old man of the forest, like the orangutan. In the Southeast Asia, and it's the hairy man is term to be given to like Sasquatch, apes, gorillas, or humans who are very hairy. Even in Greek mythology, they have hairy wild man in it, but in the medieval age, they usually mixed up the hairy wild man with the satyrs in their sculptures. So the hairy wild man is not really a goat-like figure. The story of all these folklores and that throughout the ages is pretty interesting. Let me see. Let me see. 466. That's is one of the type of hairy man that we're talking about. Let me. You could see that some of these wildman figures are mistaken with each other throughout the history. Let me. Let's look at another. That is a Sumerian hairy man tale of one of the leaders of the past. Let's take a look at another one. Sometimes some people also put some of these creatures with horns, like they were demons or something like that. This one is a drones that somebody did that I thought looks interesting. I believe it's a type of a bugbear. Now here's and, and that's a drawing of a Bigfoot, more like a Yeti. Look how that looks more like a ape or gorilla. That's why we think that we could be closely related to Sasquatch and the apes family. And these Bigfoots that um could be smart too. Like they're very intelligent. Yeah. Yeah. How can they avoid us all this time? Well, what did they do with their dead? Nobody knows. They could bury their dead. Get out of here. That could be how intelligent that they are. Um, the more we know about if we could learn more about these creatures, we could probably know what they do. We're starting to learn that apes and gorillas do have intelligence. They know how to use sticks and stones as weapons or tools to get food and all that, or use as a weapon against a snake. Just stop that. Oh, that first picture that I showed, I think that was a hairy leader, the hairy leader that was described in the Bible for Babylon. No, not the first one, but the second one. That I can't remember which one it is now. It was one that I said the Sumerian. I believe that was the leader of the. There's the next one. This one looks like a caveman, which is supposed to be reported in southern Spain. That's a Basaran. Yeah, they're it's a they combined all wild man or hairy man together as one, which include Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and all that. It's kind of so the different types that we know and heard of. Let me see. This one is a bugbear picture or drawing. This one is more like the aggressive type. We know that Sasquatch, there's some cases with Sasquatch or Bigfoot that are aggressive to humans. Even though this have a club in his hand, uh, we know that we heard that Sasquatch can use trees as a weapon or pull trees, small trees up and that. Yeah, humans are not nice either. That's true, Claire. But I don't think all creatures are aggressive or not nice. I think there are some that are truly nice and all that. Yeah, I'm surprised Matt is not here yet. Now, let me see if I could get this. No, I can't get it. Um, I can't um magnify this up a little. Let me see if I could do this. Is that a little better? Hi, Freaky. Prisoner of humanoid creatures claimed he was captured by. This is the story of Albert Ostman that he told in 1964. He was a Canadian trapper that was captured by Bigfoot. He Albert claimed he was captured by Bigfoot early in 1958. The little village of Harrison Hot Springs, just across the river from Chilliwack, started a story which set the news wire of the world humming. The safari was to be financed partly out of the village's own meager funds and partly from government grant. Of course, the Sasquatch story started as an Indian legend. Tales were told of hairy giants, half human, who would raid the villages and carry off the maidens. J.W. Burns, formerly a school teacher at Harrison, collected a fund of information about them. Let me. That wasn't the story I was looking for. Here we go. Dang it. In other words, Albert was when Albert was camped one night, carried off, carried off by a Bigfoot while he was sleeping and carried to his cave, to the cave of the where the cave two. He found a bunch of a family of Sasquatch surrounded him. He was kept there for I'm not sure how long, a couple days or something. Um, he finally did escape his captivity when he offered one of them, while the others were out, some tobacco. And when the Sasquatch ate the tobacco, the Sasquatch got sick and got distracted, and so many, freaky, so many, and he escaped. He didn't tell his story until his death, like in 1962 or something. I don't know when. When his capture by their Sasquatch was around between 1900 and 1920. I can't remember can't, can't remember what date it was because it's so small to read. I have to go find a better story than that. Yeah, or how much fur or hair the creature have, or how they smell, or how tall or big they are. You have some pygmy Sasquatch. It's like in the swamp areas of Arkansas and Louisiana, and then you have the gray man, supposed to be 20 feet tall in Scotland. Yeah, and also the habitat of the area they live in, about the minerals or the stuff like that, that like the stunt their growth or something, like in the swamp areas, because of the sulfur and that coming from the swamp gas and all that. This is a weird tale of people being kidnapped by Bigfoot. I was kidnapped by Bigfoot. It is an absurd statement that seems practically synonymous with bad tabloid headlines, cranks, and cooks. Yet, in the pantheon of the countless Bigfoot and hairy humanoid reports that have come in from all corners of the globe, there can be found a surprisingly high number of accounts that indeed claim exactly this. It is a phenomenon that can almost be considered its own subspecies of weird Bigfoot reports. But these seemingly ludicrous tales serve to not only merely entertain, but also to provoke thought and open up a line of inquiry into a rather potentially bizarre scenario. If Bigfoot and other hairy humanoid beasts are indeed real, then they on occasion abduct humans? And if so, how would such a situation play out? Here we will look at cases that may hold the answers to these questions. These are among the weirdest reports of Bigfoot kidnappings I have come across, and whether they are real or not, they are damn strange all the same. Oh, okay, here's the Albert Ostman kidnapping. the Canadian prospector and lumberjack Albert Osman in 1924. Osman went on vacation to the rugged wilderness near Toba Inlet, British Columbia, Canada. One of his purposes at the time was to try and find what he claimed to be a long lost gold mine that he was convinced existed out there in the dense forest, which is already odd and intriguing enough as it is, but would be overshadowed by the bizarreness of what would reportedly happen to him during his trip. While on the journey into these remote badlands, Osman's Indian guide told him that the man who had allegedly originally found the lost gold mine was rumored to have been killed by a Sasquatch, which was, according to Osman, the first time he had ever heard of such creatures. Despite having long been a hardened outdoorsman, the Indians explained about the large, hairy, man-like beast they called the Sasquatch, and told of the large footprints they left behind. But Osman at the time did not believe a word of it, instead chalking it up to the crazy old native legends. Long after this, the two made camp, and Osman headed out on his own with some supplies in the pack and armed with his rifle and a knife to investigate a pass through the mountains that he had seen as to do some prospecting. There's there's a picture of Osman with a reporter. Hey Snow, how you doing? Yeah, skunk apes are in Florida. Let Freaky know that, okay? Oops. After a few days of camping alone in the wilderness, some rather odd things were noticed by Osman. One morning, he found that some of the items in his camp had been moved around, although nothing had been taken, and Osman slept that night with his rifle within easy reach, thinking that perhaps a porcupine or other animal had come and picked through his camp. The following morning, he found his backpack had been empty out, but was still oddly hanging from where he had left it, and that this time some things were missing, such as a half-pound pack of prunes and all of his pancake flour. The only thing that hadn't been touched was his bag of salt. An examination of the cat turned up no footprints, and the intrusion did not seem to be the work of animals, since nothing had been torn apart or haphazardly ransacked or strung about. For 3 nights in a row, the mysterious intruder visited the camp unseen, and all efforts by Ostman to stake out his camp to find the trespasser in the act were to no avail. On the fourth night of these strange incidents, Osman went to bed fully clothed, with both his knife and rifle within easy reach, and this time he had intended to stay awake all night in order to catch the trespasser, but he eventually fell into a deep sleep. At some point, he claims he was woken by something picking him up, sleeping bag and all, and he groggily thought it might be a snow sled, although there was no snow in the area at the time. He said that he then felt as if he had been put up on horseback, and that whatever was carrying him was walking. He couldn't see anything as he was wrapped up in his sleeping bag, and he desperately grabbed for his rifle as he tried to figure out who or what was carrying him along, unable to move and with various equipment sticking into him on the force uncomfortably. Osman could only wait there in the encroaching dark and see where he was being taken. Whatever had captured him, he seemed to be taking Osman uphill as he could feel each step lifting upwards, and he began to notice that the thing was breathing heavily, as well as occasionally letting out coughing noises and strange saturn sounds. For 3 hours, Osman was carried like this through the wilderness, when suddenly his sleeping bag was dumped onto the ground and he rarely peeked outside, although it was too dark at the time for him to clearly see what was out there. He could vaguely make out large dark shapes and hear what sounded like several large creatures Saturn unintelligibly amongst each other, and it seemed to be a family of the very hairy humanoids his old Indian guide had told him about. Osman called out to ask what the creatures wanted and was answered with more of the Saturn sounds. He thought of escape, but his legs were too badly cramped and painful for him to even walk, let alone run away. Hold on a bit. Hi, DJ. Okay, there's a Bigfoot picture. As it got lighter outside, Osman claims that he could finally make out four humanoid creatures, unclothed and fully covered in saggy hair. According to him, there were two big ones, which seemed to be the father, which was a massive specimen about 8 feet tall, and the mother, as well as two smaller ones, which looked to be shorter. A boy and a girl with smaller, meaning that they were only around 6 to 7 feet tall. Osman would later say of their appearance. Their young fella might have been 11 to 18 years old and about 7 feet tall and might weigh about 300 pounds. His size would be 50 to 55 inches. His waist about 36 38 inches. He had wide jaws, narrow forehead that slanted upward around at the back, about 4 or 5 inches higher than the forehead. The hair on their heads were about 6 inches long. The hair on the rest of their body was short and thick in places. The woman's hair on the forehead had an upward turn like some women have. They call it bangs. Among women's hairdos nowadays, the old lady could have been anything between 40 to 70 years old. She was over 7 feet tall. She would be about 500 to 600 pounds. She had very wide hips and a goose like walk. She was not built for beauty or speed. Some of those lovable braziers and uplifts would have been a great improvement on her looks and her figure. The man's eye teeth were longer than the rest of the teeth, but not long enough to be called tusks. The old man must have been near 8 feet tall, big barrel chest, and big hump on his back, powerful shoulders. His biceps on upper arms were enormous and tapered down to his elbows. His forearms were longer than common people have, but well proportioned. His hands were wide, the was long and broad and hollow like a scoop. His fingers were short in proportion to the rest of his hand. His fingernails were like chisels. The only place they had no hair was inside their hands and the soles of their feet and the upper part of their nose and eyelids. I never did see their ears. They were covered with hair hanging over them. The creatures did not seem threatening or aggressive toward Ostman at all, and indeed the young ones seemed a little frightened of him, but neither did they seem ready to let him leave. According to Ostman, for the next 6 days, the family of Sasquatch forcefully kept him there, with the large male constantly nearby and sitting at the obvious escape route. During this time, Osman claims the family of creatures slept within a shelter line and covered with bark and dry moss. That gradually the creatures would come closer to absorb him, including the younger ones. The family of Sasquatch also offer Osman food in the form of nuts and type of street grass, which the young boy Sasquatch would deftly climb up the mountain to get. In return, Osman would let them play with his snuff box, which he would practice opening and closing, as well as stay snuff inside. When the young man seemed to deem one for his sister, Osman gave her a box as well. For the most part, the dogs were described as mostly Western all day, while the children climbed and played. Here's another Bigfoot or Sasquatch, black color hair. Osman claimed that several occasions he had picked up his rifle and tried to walk out of there, but the large male had stood in front of him, holding his hands out and vocalizing irritably. Although Osman had his rifle, he chose not to fire upon the creatures, as they seemed remarkably human, so no inclinations towards harming him, and he was not sure if his rifle would even hurt the massive beast. Instead, only serving to anger it, considered that the younger one seemed to like playing with the snuff boxes so much and looking at the remaining stuff within, and the father had also shown interest in them. Osman began to concoct a plan to incapacitate or even kill the large adult male by feeding him a food box stuff, after which he felt confident that he would be able to escape with little resistance. It sounds like it's one of the. Hi, Christy. It seems that the his story was used in the movie, doesn't it? One day, Osman opened a new box of snuff and took a douse, and at the same time, the adult male had reportedly suddenly snatched it away and emptied the entire contents into his mouth, even going so far as to thoroughly lick out any remnants. As predicted, the Sasquatch fell violently ill, and Osman made a run for it, reportedly firing his rifle over the mother's head as he pursued him and scaring her off. After some time of slogging through the wilderness, everywhere being followed by the family of Sasquatch, Osman was finally rescued by some loggers and brought back to civilization. Osman would keep his story quiet for decades, afraid of ridicule, until crazy reports of Bigfoot sightings in the 1950s persuaded him to finally come forth with his sensational tale in 1957. Albert Osman's amazing story has been picked apart and debated ever since, with some calling him a liar and others pointing to it as genuine evidence of Bigfoot, as well as everything in between. But we may never know the truth, whether Osman's account is true or the product of an active imagination. It is certainly one of the stranger and more detailed reports of Bigfoot kidnappings. The strange abduction of Albert Osman is certainly not the only case of an alleged kidnapping by Bigfoot, and these sorts of accounts go back a very long time and do not always take place in North America. In 1602, 17-year-old Antoinette Colette was herding animals near the village of Naves, France, when she unexpectedly vanished. No sign was found of the missing woman until later that year, when a group of lumberjacks claimed to have heard the voice of Colette calling out to them from behind. beyond the border, blocking the entrance to a cave, and explained that she had been kidnapped by an ugly, hairy monster with superhuman strength, which regularly brought her baskets of bread and fruit. That very same night, the creature is said to have wandered to nearby villages and was shot. It was described as looking like a rather human-like bear. So we have a kidnapping story from France. Hold on a minute. Okay, the late 19th century also brought with it several other stories of abductions carried out by hairy humanoids. One such account was from a lumberjack named Bourne, who claimed to have been kidnapped by a tall, hairy humanoid around 8 feet tall with long brown hair as he had been on his way to meet his fiancee in the district of Isère in France. One such kidnapped bizarre kidnapper was a 17-year-old young woman named Stephanie Long, who in 1871 was reportedly forcibly abducted by a large male Bigfoot while hiking at Morris Mountain, British Columbia, Canada. She was held captive by Bigfoot and its family for around a year, during which time she claims to have been raped by the large male, before abductors suddenly dumped her back to the place from which she had disappeared. Not long after this, it was claimed that she gave birth to a deformed baby. Now, that one is a bizarre one. Um, some of these things are more like a Beauty and the Beast type thing. Next one, in a more modern account, one 19-year-old woman named Oksana Terletskaya was apparently kidnapped by a hairy wild man after she had become lost in the wilderness. I think this is Russian. As he stopped to pick some raspberries to eat, the young woman claimed that she heard a shuffling noise and looked to see a strange creature that looked like an orangutan. The girl apparently screamed and passed out, after which she came to in a cave with the sounds of a stream nearby and rays of light piercing down through the darkness from above. Then that one comes down to more of a um tri- triple X story when Oksana awoke again. She realized that she was in prison, that she had become the wife of the creature. Whenever it left the cave, it would roll an immense heavy boulder across the entrance to the cave to prevent her escape, and would typically return with berries or raw meat for her to eat. The creature apparently showed interest in the girl's CD player and would listen to songs on it through the headphones. He apparently became very upset when the device eventually ran out of batteries and threw quite the tantrum. It sounds like some boy did a Bigfoot throw a tantrum when the batteries run out of the CD player when they can't listen to the music. And she didn't. Then she escaped. She found out she was a captive for a year, but she was mentally unbalanced by her whole ordeal, unable to fully adjust to remote life. She was admitted to a mental hospital where she relayed her amazing story to her doctor. When no one would believe her, Oksana Leslie fell into deep depression and then began telling people that the creature knew where she was and would come back for her. One day, the girl apparently just suddenly disappeared from her room, and other patients would purportedly claim that a large hairy beast had come to get her during the night. It is unclear just how much of this story is true, but it's certainly intriguing nevertheless. Then another report, this time from 1920, a young couple was tending animals in the Sierra Morena Mountains near Leicesterland in Spain when the woman who apparently abducted by an ape-like creature as he was watching close by his tree. She was then kept captive by the creature and reportedly forced, and when she finally managed to escape and make her way back home, she purportedly gave birth to a strange, hairy child who would be called Annika and nicknamed the daughter of the orangutan. Apparently, the baby was deformed with long arms, a hairy body, and an ape like mouth. And more stories in British Columbia, Native Americans. A man in a remote village in China claimed to have heard his daughter screaming out for help and had run to find an 8 foot tall hairy humanoid picking her up and carrying her away. The father bravely grabbed the stick and chased after them. He started beating the creature as hard as he could. That startled beast finally dropped the daughter and tried to escape, but purportedly became bogged down into thick mud. Other alarmed villagers appeared and proceeded to relentlessly beat the creature to death. It is unclear what, what ever happened to this story after that or what the creature had intended to do with his prize. An even more recent report comes from 1987, June 1st of that year. 16-year-old Teresa Beyer and 43-year-old Russell Wells embarked on a camping trip to Sierra National Forest. The two were apparently quite attracted big to the Bigfoot phenomenon and had hoped to get a glimpse of the creature themselves. At some point, the two became separated, and Teresa would vanish without the trace. Authorities would later question Rose, during which time he would claim that his companion had been abducted by Bigfoot. Dubious law enforcement officers would conduct an intense investigation to the disappearance, but find no evidence of foul play, forcing them to let Rose go. Consider that Teresa's body has never been found. It is unclear what happened here. Was she truly kidnapped by Bigfoot, as Rose claimed, or is this a simple case of foul play? It is unknown. Another case that a 48-year-old Jason Richardson, who was on a hike in Northern California in South Lake Tahoe and Mount Talak at one point during his trek, he claims that he heard a guttural sound, reminiscent of a human baby voice. thinking that it was perhaps a real baby left out alone in the wilderness. He was to where he had heard the noise and then claims that he lost consciousness after being bashed over the head, which was later evident by the blood he found leaking from back there. When he woke up, he says his head was bloody and hurt badly, and that he in, found himself in some sort of cavern. Near him were two bear-like creatures which seemed to be communicating in a series of guttural grunts, which sounded strikingly similar to what he had heard before he had lost consciousness. That he claimed that creatures were somewhat human-looking, covered with thick red hair, with feet that were even hairier. They stood around 8 to 10 feet high in height, and the terrified Richard wondered if he was perhaps hallucinated. Richardson was bound, hand, his hands and feet were bound with vines and other plant material. As the creature approached, his description becomes even ever more bizarre. He pissed his pants literally when he saw them. He was so fearful when he saw their heads, their necks were hairless, and they reminded him of vultures. Their heads had red hair, but also black feathers, or I don't know what it was, but it looked like feathers to me. Their eyes were dark, very dark and big as they got close to me. The creatures then apparently got quite aggressive, dragging him across the floor and kicking him. They then went off and returned with wood and stone tools for some unknown purpose. They freed his hands and feet, but he was too scared to move. The creature picked him up and tossed him out of the cave. At one point, Richard claimed that he could feel a rock hit him from behind. He wasted no time in one out of there as fast as his legs could carry him. When he checked his watch, 10 hours had passed, just the time he had been abducted by his enigmatic captor. Was this account real, or was Richardson mere hallucinating substances as he had first thought? Nobody knows. So that's some weird stories. There's even more from this side. Like 1962, Ohio women have been claimed to have been kidnapped by a group of Bigfoot. They've been visiting her family home when she was 12 years old. And we look. That's the end of that story. Now, what do you think of this? Those stories, are they made up or are they real, or are they hallucinated? Hello, anybody still here? there's a picture of a Bigfoot footprint. Let me get this. Yeah, if they're real stories, some of them sounds too fantastic to be real. I think some of them were, of course, in California, with all the marijuana being grown there. I think some of the cases there is that they probably smoked too much weed and hallucinated things. That's kind of a big footprint for Bigfoot. Yeah, yeah. Some are, some not, and not. And those instances, the case of the woman being raped, I think that she may have those. Those are the ones that I think could be mistaken as they're men who are hairy. So it could be a human being instead of Bigfoot done that. The feet of Bigfoot and the footprints that left behind is much bigger than the human feet. Hi, Matt. Yeah, this you missed some of the strange stories that I read, Matt. We were talking about people being kidnapped. Some of the stories sounds so made up, you could say. Yeah, it. It could be depending on what type of Sasquatch or Bigfoot type, Matt. We we know the North American ones, but um, the pygmy or the small Sasquatch in the swamplands in Arkansas, Louisiana, they're the smaller ones. Their feet would be different. Yeah, If I know, let me see where this one came from. This this footprint came from a claim. What some claim was made by Sasquatch in Rook Park, Ontario, Canada. So different the difference in I guess it's a devil monkey is something different. Summer. Um, from what I could tell, the footprints of from the different types of Bigfoot are would be different in ways. Yeah, because we know that not all Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yetis, Iran, Yowies, skunk apes look the same. They're different types. What? Never heard of which one, Summer? The Yowie or the Yearhead? Uh, uh, there was a. Let me get this one loads. Uh, hold on a minute. Okay, thanks, Matt, about the that devil monkey. Okay, there, I was looking it up. Bigfoot's up to prepare that one that came up as a Bigfoot. Okay, here's another strange story. A 70 Lucy race baby Bigfoot. Avondale, Louisiana State between 1964 and 1972 she raised a baby Bigfoot deep in the swamp. McKay say she has proof of her claim, complete with his physical evidence, including pictures and personal diary that she says she'll date. Uh, Picture still loading. Okay. Where's okay? I have to go back to where this page is still giving me problems. I'm going to be posting links of these. He was so. She reported that he was so little, so cute. I had to do something about it. He was so defenseless, laying next to the mud and water curled, crying like a baby. His parents were either dead or they had abandoned him. He accepted me as a friend right away. I took him home only for 3 nights to nurse him back to health. After releasing him back to the world, said these certain evenings when most people weren't around, I gave him more food. I would like to see that book come out of hers. Dang it. Something's messing up. Okay. I can't see her comments because they're behind. As that said, I would like to see her books and pictures to come out. She says she have proof, but Well, I'm hoping that she does release the book, her journal, and the pictures. So we have different counts of Bigfoot. Some seem to be friendly, while others are. I don't know. We haven't came out summer. We know that some of the Bigfoot or Sasquatch seems to be to be some um, kind, gentle beings, and while others are aggressive, we see we know that there's different types of Bigfoot or hairy or wild man or grass man or moss man or straw man all over the world. You have the different colors like brown, black, red, white, you name it. Yeah, there's like we said before in previous lives, there's always a balance of good or nice creatures versus the evil and not so nice. And then there's ones in between. You get a balance in nature. So we, yeah, there's some made some movies with them with horns, like Demon on the Mountain and all that. But now in media in today's cultures, yep, it's the same with people. I wrote down some of movies that might be interested. Some supposed to be based on true, and some are fiction. You have Exist, The Legend of Grassman, Harry and the Henderson. That's a good comedy one. I love that one. Boggy Creek or Willow Creek, Abominable, Snow Beast, Devil on the Mountain, Night Claws, Night Beast, Throwback, Stomping Ground, Bigfoot County, The Lost Coast Tapes, Bigfoot versus D.B. Cooper, Something in the Woods, Yeti, Hunted the Legend, Primal Ways, The Snow Creature, Bigfoot, The Legend of Boggy Creek, Demon Warp, Feed the Gods, Primal, Bigfoot versus Zombies, Lost Tapes, Assault of the Sasquatch, Lost Woods, Haunted Grounds, The Woodsman, Eagle Walk, Night Beast, Yeti, A Love Story. The last one I read off, it's a trauma film. A trauma film If you ever watched the the very first Kevin Bacon movie called Sizzle Beach USA, they did those that film studio also did the Toxic Avenger, Class of Nucleum High, and all that. Their their movies are always weird. And this one is talk about a gay Yeti. Yeah. Then we have Bigfoot in video games. We have Bigfoot or Hairy Man in fiction stories. We have Wild Man or Hairy Man in the Greek mythology, in the Bible, in legends like Gilgamesh. You name it. We we have them in. Yeah, I don't think all humans want to hurt them. They want to study them and interact with them to learn. But then you have hunters who go out and shoot at them. That's probably why they try to avoid humans. And then you have which one? Yeti the love story. That's a weird one, and it's I don't think some people would. Hey, girly girl. I don't think some people would be willing to watch that one since trauma movies are always weird. It's this Yeti who falls in love with a athlete, a jock type guy. Then you have Bigfoot in TV shows like The Lost Files or The X Files, The Lost Tapes, Killing Bigfoot, Expedition Bigfoot, Terror in the Woods, you name it. And Bigfoot in music, name of bands, you name it. You have a cooler named after one. You have a cooler named after one of them. Yeti coolers. Keyboard soft drinks say that they use Sasquatch in the Jack Leach commercial, the beef jerkies. You don't mess with him. And what we do and get is so much we get so much of the Bigfoot in that in the stories or in today's media where people wants to protect them and all that. And then in today's world, yes, there'll be some skepticism in some of the stories, but then their sightings of Bigfoot is being more accepted than it was like 1960s or 70s, where you get ridiculed a lot. As time goes by, it, the the acceptance of these legendary creatures like Sasquatch and Yetis or Yowies be accepted. You guys got any more questions to ask? That's a question because lots of people disagree. A lot of experts disagree with that one. Summer, Bigfoot or Sasquatch are more like humans and apes and that. There's there's so much similarities with us in ways, and not so similarities. Could could Bigfoot be aliens for been here for 3,000 years? And then they question if our gods and angels are aliens. So we have to go, and then we're recent, and other experts said that we are the aliens to this planet. So it depends on who. Yeah, I think a lot of people see aliens. uh, Next week, I'm going to see if I could get my friend to come and speak on the topic of Bigfoot and all the other cryptids. He's been shown on TV, on Animal Planet, Discovery Channel, and all that, on the programs on cryptids and History Channel. Know him since 2001. His name is Lord Coleman. He's more of an expert on Bigfoot than I am. He can help describe Bigfoots and the different types better than I could. House. We could ask him questions then. um, if they're let's see, I got it off. I think I covered them all, but then I could also, like I said, what about the Greek mythology, I could break down and do individual videos on the different types of the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, you name it, like a have a catalog of mythical beasts on YouTube. Any other questions? Yeah, from what I understand, a lot of the people that have YouTube channels for cryptids look up to him. I could probably get Nebs to co-host with me next time, where he could interview him as well. I think I covered all that I can today with the with all that storytelling. Got my mouth all dried up. I think my voice is starting to go too. Yeah, I could probably get him up here too as co-host to interview. All three of us could interview Lauren together. Be a good panel. Okay, if I may have to end it now because my voice is starting to go. Okay, I have to save rest my voice up for tomorrow morning for my other live. Okay, if yeah, I'll call it the end for tonight. My voice is starting to go. Hi, Paranormal Circle. How you doing? Thank you, Summer. Oh, like I said, next Friday I'll have I'll try to get Lauren to come up panel for an interview. You're welcome, Summer. I won't call it in for today. I'll see you next Friday for the interview with Lord Corbin. If not, we'll work on aliens instead. Aliens and UFOs. See you all next week, or some of you tomorrow. Take care.